conversations with the sound guys, so hopefully everything is good.
It should be fixed.
I can hear me. I can hear you. Hopefully we can hear our game once we get into it. So guys, they've been working on it a lot.
We just have to
try
talk
and
with
fix
like the Ghostbusters guys and make it very clear
Don't
that
cross
you
the
never
streams.
cross the streams.
Don't cross the streams. Indeed, man. You almost had me giggling like a little schoolgirl when you said that. I think you were tweeting it like right after the last series of games. But we are, I think, going to be jumping into these games here as quickly as we possibly can. For those of you trying to follow the schedule, we may be a little bit behind indeed. So it does look like, look at this, it is Mr. Sheth himself, the Manor Bear indeed. He has a lot of games played. You can see he does struggle versus Terran, but his other two matchups are above that 60 percentile win rate, which I think is extremely important. You can see second place there at 2 events in 2011. And again, he is such a nice guy. And I'm curious as to what it says in the middle. While having a reputation as a macro-oriented player, Sheth does not hesitate to capitalize on openings and oftentimes utilize extreme early game aggression to punish greedy opponents. That sounds like something Sean would write, man. That's like straight out of Sean's mouth. So we'll go ahead and take a look at his next opponent, who is
ThorZaIN.
indeed going to be ThorZaIN. And
the Spoon Terran.
Yeah, the Spoon Terran.
Said so many times.
I think mostly just you have said that, but that's
you know
completely okay, and we're fine with it. I don't know.
Fine, then I'm not going to say it anymore.
I'm not going to say it anymore. You can go
so
ahead and like me.
ThorZaIN's coming into this event off a very big win, most recently at DreamHack Stockholm.
Yes. Yes, and ThorZaIN is just such a good player. I mean, he's been around for an extremely long time. He's been practicing, of course, joining Team EG. Here is Antiga Shipyard. So the TVZ win rate is about as darn even as you can get there. And this is the version without the high yield minerals.
Correct.
And so that does mean that, you know, neither player can secure that in the center. And it makes it very interesting because your obvious fourth is no longer that center expansion. You have to decide, do I go for the center or do I go for another base altogether in one of the corners of the map? Speaking of the corners of the map, up in the top left side, it is going to be EG ThorZaIN. So I hope you have your boomsticks at home because you better be making some noise.
And now his opponent, the master of manners, the one, the only Liquid Sheth, playing as the Blue Zerg. Give a small, well-mannered cheer for him.
Yes,
from
a
the
nice,
comfort of your own home. A
studious golf clap, perhaps. And as I like to say, if you're at a Barcraft, give a cheer and buy a beer for whichever player that you end up liking. And also,
actually, if you do not buy a beer for every single player, you're doing Barcraft wrong.
That you're doing it absolutely incorrect. And that one guy who's super drunk just loves us now because now he has a reason, an excuse. He's like, Rob Simpson told me it was okay, so give me another one. But anyways, I think Antiga Shipyard is a very good map to start this series off with. We saw just how balanced it is, not only for this matchup, but overall in a lot of the other matchups as well. It also says Sheth plays with his keyboard on his lap. That is indeed true. And I asked him...
Do you know the story why, Mike?
It wasn't at the panel. I think it was at one of the catering things we did. But he said, which I haven't heard the story until I asked him. That's why I asked him. He said that he broke his leg, and what would happen is he always had to have his leg propped up, so he'd have it like, you know, elevated. But that means you can't sit at a desk correctly because your leg is elevated. And so what he would do is he would turn, and instead of turning his whole body to use the mouse and keyboard, he's just like, why don't I just put the keyboard on my lap? It ended up sticking, and he was telling me he actually played a tournament with his leg propped up, and that they couldn't use the computer next to him, which to me, that's just like, Sheth, I love you. Even if I'd never heard anything about it before, I'm just imagining him playing with his leg propped up.
And that was after, I believe that was after he had already recovered. So he was actually just like taking an extra station. It wasn't like it was a medical necessity.
Perhaps.
He was just so used to playing that way.
Oh, it is so good. And I was saying it'd be hilarious if like in the booths, like that's how he had to sit. And I just wish that was the case. But having him play, you know, with the keyboard in his lap already is very unique. We do see ThorZaIN going for a pretty standard opening here, deciding not to go ahead and wall in by any means. I mean, he's got supply depots going, so sometimes you'll see a 3 supply depot wall in, which can be nice because you get your units in and out of there very quickly. Sheth is going to maybe lose his Overlord. Did he just seriously mess this up? I don't know if he's going to end up losing this. Okay.
It totally gets away.
Okay. Gotta remember, man, they're so fast now.
Yeah,
I'm so used to like, oh my god, he's like 1 inch of the base, he's going to lose the Overlord. But no, that Overlord says, nope, my siblings were slow, but I have evolved to be much quicker.
He is the better, faster, stronger Overlord.
Indeed. I'm just imagining
They're
Blizzard
not harder.
like
they take just as many hits to kill.
The montage of Blizzard like in the studio, just like we're gonna make them stronger and faster and harder. We have the means. I don't know the whole intro to that show, but the joke ends there as we do have the reactor now going on for ThorZaIN.
$6 billion Overlord. Man, Ultralisk, what?
Yeah,
Those
they're
aren't
faster.
the same thing.
They're a little bit faster, but they cost 6 billion minerals, so that's quite costly there. But we do see Sheth, of course, getting his expansion up and running. I believe he just made 4 Zerglings. Yep, so 4 Zerglings are now out on the field. And ThorZaIN's expanding here, so pretty standard stuff out of both these guys.
Yeah, so as this game moves on, I really want to see just how effective ThorZaIN is going to be able to be with these Hellions. We can see right now that Sheth is already adding on his next 2 queens. He's going to have a total of 4 queens, right? Meaning that he's going to be able to push that creep out actually pretty quickly. I was going to say something like, slowly moving across the map, but really you just get so many creep tumors now that you get across that map.
Yeah, we saw players like making 7 creep tumors at a time in our recent games, so we do see a 3rd base going to be going down right now, and the Zerglings running on up here, but Hellions should be able to clean those up in no time. I don't think the Zerglings had their binoculars on, so I don't think they saw that expansion. Just at a range right there, as you can see. So ThorZaIN, I mean, he's feeling nice and comfy. He's just like playing his game, macroing up. And I'm curious to see exactly how Sheth decides to react here.
Well, Sheth reacts by making another 8 drones,
right,
and going for a 3rd throwing down his macro hatch. Now, you don't see a lot of players actually throw down their macro hatch before they place that 3rd out there.
Yeah, it's something that's it's so tempting to take that 3rd base on this map because it's so close. But Sheth, I mean, he knows what he's doing. He's also placing that macro hatch a little bit to the north. That's going to help spread the creep to that corner of the base right there. And interestingly enough, Sheth did decide to connect 2 bases. This is something that a lot of times you will see Zerg players not connect these right away because they're more interested in spreading the creep as quickly through the center of the map as you can. Sheth, though, going to be playing it a little bit less aggressive, a little bit more safe, and actually just put this creep tumor up to the north to even spread more right there. And that's going to be great for dealing with drops.
Correct, because you also get lots of vision out there always, so we're going to slowly see Sheth just take over the entire map with his purple vision goo. And now ThorZaIN has 6 Hellions waiting out front. Now, this is where ThorZaIN kind of just wants to bounce around with those Hellions. He's waiting for new creep tumors to be placed down so that he can just deny them immediately, because he really can't bother fighting any of those queens because they have the same range as him, right? So there's really no point in that, but as we can see, he wants to move them up simultaneously. He wants to make sure that they both get up at the same time so that he has the best possible chance of defending them.
And you can see the Hellions now are indeed pushed back just a little bit. Now, Hellions used to kite back and forth to try and kill off these queens, but that is no longer an option here. You might have to keep your queens a little bit further forward to try and prevent those creep tumors from going down, and Sheth did not cancel that in time. It does indeed get taken out, and these creep tumors as well, one of them goes down, but 3 do remain.
Yeah, so this is all that ThorZaIN wants to do. He just wants to slow down the inevitable growth that is Sheth's creep spread. And over here, Sheth is also taking a 3rd base of his own. Now, we see that ThorZaIN hasn't really moved out with that orbital command quite yet. He has really kept up on his SCV production, though. He's at 42 SCVs already. He also has an orbital command out there, so that's going to be paying for itself with mules anyway.
Oh man, Sheth making a huge wave of lings here, and I think he's waiting for his Zergling speed. I think he really wants to take these by surprise. If ThorZaIN looks away for 1 second, right when Sheth attacks, he can get us around and kill off those Hellions. And you may be surprised how devastating losing 6 Hellions can be, because that's like an expansion and a half in resources. Well,
not only is it an expansion and a half in resources, which is so accurate, but he also then pretty much says to Sheth, okay, you can creep spread around the entire map, and I'm not going to stop you.
All right, here he goes. Is he going to go ahead and do it? Now, you got to remember that if the angles are perfect, the Hellions will be able to do an outstanding amount of damage to those Zerglings. It's all about the angles, and that's really kind of how it is throughout the entire matchup for TVZ. Zerg wants to get the best angles, although he's going around the watchtower here, just barely out of vision, and is going up to the right side. I think he just wants to make sure that there's no expansions up there. Indeed, there are not. Does Sheth have something planned to surprise ThorZaIN here? If he runs in there, I don't know, man. It's got to be tough to do as much damage as he needs to.
Oh, man. Oh, he's actually just going to get a 6 round on 1 Hellion.
Wow.
Oh, man, and the Hellion is actually going to escape anyway.
That Hellion, a member of the Fast and the Furious, able to escape. Sure demise. I just want to say that Sheth has made a bajillion Zerglings. He has 57 lings already. He's spent a total of 0 gas on units right now, and this is a strategy that a lot of Zerg players like to utilize, even back in the Brood War days, where you try and save as much gas as you can, although Sheth has not put drones in that 4th gas yet. I'm curious to see if that is intentional or not, but you save up that gas, and then you unload it into either a big wave of Mutalisks or a big wave of Infestors. But, Rob, keep in mind, Sheth recently said in that pregame show basically that he doesn't like Mutalisk as much in this matchup compared to Infestors.
And I mean, you'll see that repeatedly, right? Because Mutalisk can just have such a difficult time, especially with how heavy the Marine production generally is for pretty much all Terrans in this matchup right now. And you can just lose those Mutalisks in the blink of an eye. Also, Sheth, we always talk about, he was the player that pretty much always did the Zergling Infestor combo, because he just loves that fungal growth and getting the melee upgrades on his lings.
And you know what? We're talking about Infestors, while Sheth, he's in his booth talking about Hive Tech, which
at 11:30 is when that was started.
Oh my God. So he could either be going for fast ultras, which looks like that will be the case because of those early 2-2 upgrades already on the way. And again, if we take a look at that units tab, there is 0 gas in this army composition. Now, at some point, ThorZaIN is going to want to move out. He's going to lose 1 Hellion. That's fine. The game has been going on long enough where that's okay. But he wants to micro back and forth to kill off as many Zerglings as possible because he knows that that's the only unit that Sheth has right now.
And yeah, ThorZaIN staying really active with those Hellions, doing, I mean, pretty much everything that he needs to with them, just frying a few of the Zerglings. But the thing is, for Sheth, he just wants to make ThorZaIN feel confident, right? Because as long as ThorZaIN doesn't get curious and go over there and find out about the Hive, he's going to be in the dark when this tier 3 tech hits him.
Yeah, I'm looking at his vision. There's the dark right there. He's actually just assuming that Sheth has spawned to the bottom right side, but he is going to be moving out. Now, this is going to be before the Hive tech kicks in, because you have to remember, you have to make the Hive, you have to make the Hive tech structure, and then you have to make the Hive unit, which is going to be the longest building unit in the game. Now, we do have Infestors on the way, but Sheth needs to be careful here not to be playing too greedy.
Now, those Infestors are still, have pretty much just started being built, so really all that he has is his 120 Zerglings against ThorZaIN's army, but here he is now starting to move across that creep. Now this is the danger that the Terran runs into at this point in the game. There's just so much creep out there that if you wander just a little bit too far, the Zerg's able to get us around pretty quickly. But ThorZaIN staying very smart with those units, only poking out with just a little bit so that he can cascade them back into his own army as he picks off the creep tumors.
Sheth is ready to strike. He's got his units in 3 different locations. This could be the perfect surround. The siege tanks are a little bit closer than ThorZaIN might like when this attack actually happens. Is Sheth going to do it? His units are a little bit out of position. No, he's deciding to attack too soon.
Whoa.
Needs to back out there.
ThorZaIN, with a pretty brilliant Hellion placement up here, he was actually in the perfect position to stop the flank from coming in from the north. And yeah, he lost 3 of them, but it pretty much stopped all of that assault. Oh man, and now Sheth is able to get in there and close that out pretty quickly. And now there's kind of a strange army placement for ThorZaIN, where he's got just so many units so far into the center of that map, but Sheth has a pretty dominating presence right now. Here he is going in for what could be a huge massacre onto ThorZaIN's units, although it's not looking like those Lings are able to get the service area that they really needed right there at the top of the map. And oh man, Sheth just lost so many units.
Yeah, Sheth, his goal here is to delay the push until the Ultras are out, not to try and kill it. And interestingly enough, the Zerglings got a decent surround, and also on top of that, they had an upgrade advantage. ThorZaIN's 2-2 was not done until the second after that attack happened. So if there was a better time to go, I mean, it's not going to be happening anytime soon until this 3-3 is done. But at the same time, I feel like if he would have waited a little bit, he could have had a lot more Ultras out, a lot more Lings to reinforce that. And you can see, Rob, I can't believe this. He's going straight to 3-3, chitinous plating, adrenal glands, and I don't even think he's made an Ultras yet.
Nope. Doesn't need to, because he's just going to save up as many minerals as he can and just make one wave of Ultralisk when his opponent doesn't know that he's doing that.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, he has 1,300 minerals. There go down the Ultralisk wave right now. 4 are on the way. He is going to lose a lot of Lings here, though. And you got to remember that those are kind of the only things you have for defense at this point in the game. So you have to be very careful. I mean, he does have a lot more Lings here right at the center. The scan goes down. ThorZaIN's like, okay, buddy, what have you got planned? But I got to be honest, at this point, Sheth kind of knows that, I mean, ThorZaIN.
The bottom left base was just taken out by ThorZaIN. ThorZaIN got down there, did a really quick drop, dealt a lot of damage down into that lower left base. Obviously killed the hatchery there. Sheth trying to respond, but of course, no matter how fast those Lings get down there, oh man, I was like, no matter how fast the Lings get down there, it's not going to bring the hatchery back from the dead. ThorZaIN staying active with his units once again, moving into that top right spawn.
Yeah, I mean, right now, ThorZaIN's in such good shape because he's been whittling down this Zergling count consistently. I mean, those Zerglings haven't been doing all that much, and he is continually getting baited over here as well. And ThorZaIN, even if he hasn't spotted the Ultras, he has to know there's only one option for Sheth at this point. He hasn't seen Broodlords, he hasn't seen Mutos or Corruptors, so he knows that Ultras are the name of the game. Now, does he know they're going to be fully upgraded? Well, there's one scan right there. He is going to spot the edge of the Ultralisk, and I feel like this is not going to take ThorZaIN by surprise at this point.
Nope, especially because he's scanning left and right, being sure that he knows exactly what Sheth is up to. Now, what has suffered the most here is Sheth's creep spread. He doesn't have the vision as far as he'd like to. He's also not really remaking all of the tumors repeatedly, as I'm sure that he would very much enjoy to have there, because it's those free units that do force out the scans. And now Sheth's doing what he can to keep ThorZaIN out of his house, but he's still got a bit of prep to do.
ThorZaIN has indeed invited himself. Here goes Sheth right now. I don't know if this is going to work. He's going to be fighting up a one choke, and ThorZaIN's the one getting a multiple surround here. Bungles are going down, but the Ultras, look, 3 Ultras sitting here doing absolutely nothing. Although fully upgraded Ultras are pretty darn good. He is going to be able to clean this up, but keep in mind the supply advantage is still heavily favoring ThorZaIN here. There is a drop right here at the expansion as well. ThorZaIN is just completely dominating this game, and a handful of Ultras, that is not enough to win you this game when you're way behind in supply.
Yeah, now we actually also have ThorZaIN adding Banshees and Vikings to play as well. He's really just going to be covering all of his bases. If there's no sort of comeback composition that could make him lose this game. ThorZaIN staying very calm, cool, and collected as he takes out that third base of Sheth, forcing him down onto having only basically half a mining base.
And the Ultras right now are going to be scouting out the center, but you got to remember, this base has been established for a while. There's even throwing down barracks on the low ground. That's how confident he is that he's going to be holding this location. Planetary means that Zerglings cannot attack there, and ThorZaIN has just been all over the map, dropping the third base, the fourth base, and the fifth base, denying all those from going down. So it's been 3 base Zerg versus 4 base Terran for quite some time, and really all ThorZaIN has to do here is clean up these Ultras. He's going to be in great shape. He's still 30 supply in the lead, and Banshees, they don't get hit by any of these units, so while this may look intimidating, it's not going to last for long.
Right, it's really just a matter of time until these Ultralists are going to die. Because, yeah, even if everything on the ground dies, just like you said, those Banshees are going to be able to kill everything else. But as we can see, the Ultras have maintained a significant amount of momentum as they continue to just mow across this map and deal as much damage. Although, really, ThorZaIN's just waiting for his next wave of units to pop out. Oh, man, throwing some Marines to the slaughter as he also continues around the east side of the map, doing a little bit of a drop, staying active over there, killing a few of those drones where he can. Now, Sheth is just out here essentially farming these units.
Yeah, now we do have 3 Queens moving up here. They do have enough energy for transfuse, but Sheth also being so aggressive with the Ultras that the poor Queens cannot keep up.
Now, there is one tank on the high ground there. Will he be able to get into range to land those transfuses? Because all of those Ultras are actually so low, but there we go. All of the transfuses now landing in. Oh, but the Banshees are back at work. Once again, the Queens are now dead, but the Ultras have had a new second wind breathed into them. Although more Banshees are in play now, I'm not sure how Sheth is going to be able to break through this.
Yeah, Marauder Banshee, definitely a good way to deal with just a couple Ultralists in your base. And this drop has cleaned up the expansion. There's the GG. Sheth was, I mean, to be quite frank, after he tried to go for that attack and then decided to back out, it was no momentum after that. Because, I mean, at that point, ThorZaIN's like, okay, I see your 200 Zerglings and no gas in your army, so I know exactly what you're going to be going for. And at that point, Sheth can't really go for Broodlords because Vikings are going to be able to kill those off very quickly because ThorZaIN has set the pace of the game. So I love what Sheth was trying to do, but if you sit back for that long, and I feel like he built those Ultras pretty late, considering he had such an early Ultras cavern, that it's not going to take him by surprise.
He almost waited for all of his upgrades to finish.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he started 3-3 and chitinous plating before actually engaging there. And really, I mean, ThorZaIN, he just played it out so perfectly. He took the center of the map, and also, you mentioned those Hellions were placed well. He also had Marines at the south side to prevent any sort of flank from happening. That's where a lot of Terrans are going to slip up, allow the Zerg to get the surround. He just had complete control of that game, and I think he's going to have a lot of momentum going into the next game because he is such a strong player.
The other thing about where those Hellions were was that was actually all on creep, you know? So, like, Sheth actually even knew that was there and, like, still went for the flank. It was a little bit uncoordinated, too, where he had actually lost a good chunk of his units anyway before the surround was able to happen, and it was just, I mean, ThorZaIN was ready for all attacks and was literally just telling Sheth, yeah, try attacking me.
It does look like we have Metropolis as Sheth's pick for this next game.